I've heard that life is what you make it. I say make room to grow. I'm your host, LaWanda Dockery, and this is the Make Room to Grow podcast. It all started with a dream about growing food, and who would ever imagine that growing food would lead to me learning about personal growth and development? Well, it did, and I want to bring you along for this beautiful ride. Thank you so much for joining me. Hello, Grow Nation. How are you guys? I hope this finds you well. I hope it finds you looking forward to another beautiful weekend. Today is actually cold. I looked at the temperature a little while ago and it was 31, 32 degrees. Oh my goodness. If you are like me, I have spring fever and I am so ready to get out in that garden. I don't know about you, but your girl is ready to go. I can't wait to get this season started. I thought it might be a good idea to just give you a series of things that are easy to grow, relatively speaking. We never have full control over what happens when you put the seed in the ground. However, there are things that you can do to tip the scales in your favor. We're going to talk about strawberries and berries first. Before we get into that, I do want to share a couple of things that have been going on behind the scenes at Make Room to Grow. We have a beautiful, burgeoning, developing gardening club. When I tell you this has been the highlight, just getting together, gathering, talking about what we want to accomplish in the garden, trading tips, and some OGs are there. It is such a beautiful thing. And at the end of the season, we plan to break bread with our own food, guys. Can you imagine that? God is doing a wonderful, beautiful thing. And if you want to get on board, maybe you're far away, you can only do this via Zoom. Email me at info@makeroomtogrow.com and we will see where you can get plugged in. You guys know I am such a stickler for if God gives you a vision, follow it through. You never know all the ways that he's going to grow it. When you have a seed, I told you this before, but I want to reiterate. When you have a seed, everything that the seed needs to thrive is in that seed coat, or at least everything the seed needs to burst through the soil is in that seed coat. Everything about the capacity of that seed has to do with where you put it. If you limit it, it will be a stunted seedling. If you put it in the biggest possible container at the right time, it will thrive. It will give you its best, so to speak. So when God gives us something, we have to ensure that seed is going to thrive. So I pray that this is what happens with Make Room to Grow, but I just want to give you that. If God gives you a vision, follow it through. On to our series. This series will be called Easy Pickings because there are a few things that you can grow that you can be pretty much assured that it'll grow. I encourage you to do additional research because what I give you will not be in totality and it won't be for every situation, but it'll be just good general information. Strawberries and berries. If you want to plant a workhorse in your garden, you need to plant some strawberries. I'm telling you, that has been the top performer. Yes, string beans are good. I've talked about those before. Lettuce is easy. Strawberries is going to be your workhorse. They will keep giving you a return year after year after year. They produce runners, so that one strawberry plant will essentially propagate itself. We're letting our raised bed turn into a strawberry patch. So that goes to show you, we started with maybe at most 5 plants. I bought one transplant. The rest of the plants I grew from seed and I planted those later in the year. And it's taken over at least 50% of our raised bed at this point. And it's an 8x4 raised bed. Now I have the garden tower that I have on my porch and I want to grow some new strawberries. So instead of taking those from out the raised bed and digging those up, I'm going to get some bare root strawberries. I'm going to go to a local nursery and get those. And from what I have not grown those yet. I've grown from transplant and I've grown from seed. The bare root, in my research, you have to soak the roots for 24 hours in water, and then you can just plant them. Now, when you're planting strawberries, I know this, you have to keep the crown above the soil line because it will not grow. It'll prohibit the growth if you bury the crown. It just is how it works. I've been able to overwinter our strawberries in the raised bed just fine. I've not even covered them up. The first year I covered them up with some leaves, but since then we have not covered them up, and they make it perfectly fine throughout the winter. Now, for our purposes, we are going to focus on June-bearing and ever-bearing strawberries. June-bearing gives you one huge yield for a summertime, and then ever-bearing gives you multiple yields over the summer. I have June-bearing as of now, and I'm going to purchase some ever-bearing for my garden tower. I'm going to try a new soil this year called Strawberry Fields. That is produced by Fox Farms, and you will see that brand around a lot for potting soil in the bag. The main fertilizer that I use, and I use this once the season gets going, maybe every couple of weeks, is Alaska fish fertilizer. This is fish emulsion, which you mix with water, you dilute it, and you give it to your plants every couple of weeks. Now, for your berries, I've talked about these before, but it's worth mentioning in this same episode. Double gold raspberries. I ordered those from Ison's Nursery a couple of years ago. I planted those in April. I got a yield in July. For my strawberries, I planted in March, and I got a yield by end of May. So just to give you some dates on that, with the double gold raspberry, it comes bare root. So again, I took a 5-gallon bucket, filled it up with some soil, plopped it in there, and the rest, it worked for itself. I didn't have to do anything. These are things that you can put in your garden that will give you yield year after year. If you have enough going on in your garden, these are things that can tend to themselves for the most part. You'll see if anything is wrong with them, but they will grow and they will give you amazing, amazing fruit. So guys, until next time, I want you to be intentional about those areas in your life where you are going to make room to grow.